More and more guitar players are struggling with basic rhythms and timing. Find out why and what you can do to move your rhythm playing up a few levels. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome, friends, to this episode of the Play Guitar Podcast. I am Lee, and this is the podcast that's determined to make you a better guitar player. No matter if you're just starting out or you've been playing for years, this is the show that will help you become the guitarist that you always wanted to be. If you're new here, hello, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and check out the description for all of the links from the show. This is a pre-storm podcast today, so I'm recording it right before it gets here. I know a lot of the people on the eastern half of the United States went through it this past Tuesday, which is when I'm recording this, and I hope the best for you. I hope everyone stayed safe, and we'll see in about an hour what's going to happen here. Who knows? But I thought I would get this in now while the electricity is working. So hope everybody's doing great today. And just to let you know, another thing that's going great is we've been going every single day in the Academy, going live. We've been doing it at 5 p.m. And we've been having a series of etudes. Etude is the French word for study. These are little pieces that I've created to demonstrate all of how to get through all of the frustrating things in guitar practice. And we're getting our beginning of the year together. We call it Boost Camp 2024. We are smack in the middle of it right now. And we have a great group of folks that are coming in every day, and we're learning these things. We're picking them apart, and there's a lot of light bulb moments going on right here. We're making sure that the musical triangle, what I talk about all the time, melody, harmony, and rhythm, is, well, if one suffers, how all the other ones can't stand. So we're making sure that we have our melody, harmony, and rhythm together in everything that we do. It's halfway through the 14 days, but you can replay all the days if you get in while the boot camp is going on, and I think we're going till Tuesday. So go in. It's only $1 for the first 14 days of a membership. And then after that, you can decide whether you want to stay or not. But you can get into this really, really powerful. It's really a group interactive class. And I just can't wait to see you over there. We're having such a good time. My mission this year, 2024, my mission is to see all of you. I want you all to see real results in your guitar playing. This is the year where I want you to think, I really moved up a notch. I'm at a different place now in my playing than I was before. And I hope to have just a little bit to do with that there. To know how to help as many people as possible, I need some information. I need to know some things. Luckily, with the Academy, I'm in contact with a lot of players on a daily basis. So much so, it's easy to see the trends. Last year, the big trend, what people were not getting and were wanting to get, was the chord tone targeting, being able to play their solos and that they match what's playing behind them underneath the chord progressions. This year's a little bit different. We've shifted over to the other side. This year, it's rhythm. Is it ever rhythm? A lot of the shakiness in my students playing is coming out as we go into rhythm a little bit more. It's the reason why is because, we talk about the YouTube generation of learning guitar, but it goes even farther. This is the tablature generation. The tablature teaching method has struck again. You know it. With tablature, you don't know the key. You don't know the notes in the chords. You don't know what scale to play. You don't know any of the rhythms. It's great. I can't figure out for the life of me why I'm not any better than I am because I look at tablature all day long. Well, when I was first starting, the tablature I had, it was very few. It was very far between and is usually false. right? The 3 Fs for tablature. It was horrible back then. You couldn't find it. But when you did, there was a lot of problems with it. What made you dive into these songs was you just didn't have the information available to you. But now, when you learn everything from tablature, you get a lot of problems. All sorts of problems, but rhythm is the biggest problem when you're learning from tablature all the time. It's not reflected. Sure, you see a few that they'll put the stems and kind of put the rhythm in a little bit. For the most part, it's not. So for today, for those of you that know that you are good up to a point, right? I know what I'm doing up to about here. I've got some tips for you today that are going to help you leave that point in your past. And it's going to make you feel confident, and it's going to make you feel solid in your rhythm playing. So let's get started. The first tip I have for 2024 to get your rhythms together is using accents, accenting notes. So I'm going from the outline today. This is my introduction to accenting. Okay, so when you play a series of notes, especially say they're all the same. Say you play the same note. Let me get a guitar here. Say you play this D, and you're playing eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And say you have a song that has that. I don't know many songs that do 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And it can sound kind of flat. So naturally, when your pick goes down, it has a certain tone. And when it goes up, it has a certain tone. So for guitar, we have a little bit of varying to that sound. It's a little more interesting than if it was just a keyboard MIDI note that was the same velocity every time. Ba, 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 right? So what we can do is we can start to practice accenting by picking one of those notes to make louder than everything else. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And the metronome, here we go, this guy. You can set these metronomes, I don't know if I have it set today, but you can set a metronome to accent the first beat of every measure. And if you have it 3/4, if you have it all sorts of different ways, whatever way you've got it set up, having that first note, maybe it's a different tone or maybe it's a little bit louder, but it brings attention to that note. So metronomes are already doing this. They emphasize certain beats. What we're going to do is use accenting to build your internal metronome. You're going to start working your scale patterns or just even just licks, you accenting certain beats. What if I played the second one louder than the first? So these were eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3. And what if I played 1 and 2 and 3 and 4? And so I was making the off beats louder. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and right. So I have this internal metronome that I've been developing for decades. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and these accents are making these off beats, these notes inside the beat that aren't normally there from a metronome or from a regular click. They're making them featured, right? So accenting is very helpful, especially when you get to 16th notes. You're playing 4 notes for every beat. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. And they all run together. It sounds fast. That's fast playing right there, 16th notes. But each one of those notes is important. We rarely play songs that have just 16th notes all of the time. Usually they kind of come in and go away, come in, go away, and they're not always 1 E and a all together. Sometimes you might have a 16th note just on one of those beats, not all 4. So how do you get to be able to do that and stay in time? And that is practicing with accents. So if I was practicing, let's slow it down, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. At first, I'm going to accent, I'm going to make louder the first one of each beat. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E Now that's a typical rhythm. We're used to that. That's the typical 16th note rhythm. But what if I accented the second one? 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Whole different sound. It's a whole different feel. Accenting that second beat. And it's something that I can do because I've practiced this a lot. But when you get to a song where you have a 16th note on the and one on the E, 1 E and 2 E and we're using this little language we're going to talk about in a minute a little bit more. 1 E. So you're playing on the E, the second beat of an equally divided by 4 beat, right? 1 E and a 2 E and a. What about if it was 3? What if beat 3 was accent? 1, 2, 3, 4. And a 2 E and a. A whole different feel to it, right? 1, 2, 3. Here's 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E. Now it's accenting 2, 1 E, 2 E, 3 E and a 4 E. 1 E and a 2 E and a. Now I'm going to do the last one. 1, 2 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. We can do this many different ways. Let's talk about single notes. Let's do. We can practice using accents in our scale patterns. So this was C major at pattern 5, and I was playing eighth notes: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So every time there was a note that was on the offbeat, I made that a little bit louder than the other one, and it brought attention to it, and it reinforced it in my mind that it has to fit exactly in between the 2 beats. We could do that as a sequence too, accenting the second note of every sequence. So another way that we can do this is by accenting our chords during our chord practice. Let's take a very basic D to G. And what we'll do is we'll do 16th notes on the 1, 2, and a slower beat like this so we can fit all 16 in. 1 E and a 2 E. I'm accenting the last 16th note of each beat. A 2 E and a 4 E and a. And what if we switch that up? So what if we accented the, let's pick the second. Very different feel. So what if I tried to do that same progression, but this time accenting the second of all the 16th notes? Very different feel. So what if I took that same progression and I did it a little differently? Instead of accenting the last beat, let's do the second this time. That'll be a little odd. It'll be a little different. So it'll be 1 E and a 2 E and a. Every time I have that up strum on the second of those 16th notes, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E. Okay, so yeah, very different. You can experiment with accenting those notes. It's making a big deal about them. Your brain is going to pay extra special attention to that beat, and it's going to make it much easier for you to pay attention to each subdivision of each beat. The next problem that I'm seeing constantly, all the time, is people who are not able to play mixed rhythmic values. You might be able to play your whole notes. You can play your half notes, you can play quarter notes, eighth notes, and even be working on your 16th notes. But when you have to do them both in one measure, maybe play a couple 16th notes and some eighth notes, and then everything starts to fall apart. It becomes chaos when you mix basic rhythmic values. And the problem with this is that the songs that we listen to use all those things that you practice, the whole eighth, quarter notes, 16th notes, half notes, all those things. They use them here and there like spices. There's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And when you combine two together, you get a whole new different rhythm, right? So we need to understand how to do those. And, usually the slower ones, we can get them. And as soon as something comes either quickly or we get some of these notes, like we talked about with accenting, sometimes we have some notes that appear in the middle, in between two beats. We need to know exactly where those are supposed to land for a certain feel. So there is a big need for focused practice in mixing rhythms. So working with combinations of eighths and sixteenths is where I would start. So eighths and sixteenths. Eighths are half of a beat. Sixteenths are a quarter of the beat. Let's do it with the metronome here. So let's use that D chord we were using before. Here's eighth notes and 2 and 3. The sixteenths. 1. This is an eighth and 2 sixteenths. How about 2 sixteenths and an eighth? Let's go back and forth. One E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. Right there at the end, I decided to ditch the playing all the time, eighths, sixteenths, eighths, and I just played one of the sixteenths, the very last one before the beat, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. That's very difficult to place that perfectly, especially when the tempo gets going pretty fast. So what I would do is just that. Start with eighth note, 2 16th notes, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and then flip it. Da 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 da. 1 E and a 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Next, you'll come across something called dotted notes. Dotted notes are whenever you take. It's very easy, but it's very difficult to get it first. So whenever you take a certain value of notes, say a quarter note, and you put a dot on it. I think you've all may have seen that if you looked at standard notation at all. You'd see a note with a dot next to it. And what that means is you take half of that note and add it to the value of the note. Meaning, if you had a quarter note, right, you would let that ring for the quarter note that it says, and then half of what it is. So half of a quarter note is an eighth note. So you add together a quarter note and an eighth note, and that's how long that note lasts. It's an easy way of doing that without having to tie on another quarter note and write a whole bunch of things. You just put a dot there. So a quarter note with a dot on it is 1.5 beats. That means the next note you would play would come on the end of what? Beat 2. 1, 2, and. So the first one starts right on 1. 1, 2, and. Here's our quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'll do a dotted quarter note. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1. I'm actually doing a dotted quarter note with an eighth note at the end. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4. This is mixing our quarter notes and eighth notes, but you can also do this with eighth notes and 16th notes. It's a dotted eighth. That means an eighth note is half of a beat. So a dotted eighth would be 3/4 of a beat. That would leave another quarter left. What's a quarter of a beat? A 16th note. So the dotted eighth would take 3/4 of the beat. And then right before you get to beat 2, we've got one little quick. 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. Dotted eighths and 16th notes are all over the music that we play, the music that we listen to. They come in, they go out. You'll actually find them flipped too. So you'll have the 16th note in the beginning and the dotted eighth note at the end. Next time you practice, turn on the metronome and see if you can make your first quarter note last for a beat and a half. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3. So the next note that you would play is on the and of 2. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4. There's a little bit of thinking involved in the beginning, and it takes a while, but pretty soon that sound will get in your ears. You'll be able to know that rhythm and you'll be using it all the time. You'll be playing on off beats a lot more and it will make sense to you. The other problem that I'm seeing with this kind of rhythm is triplets. Playing triplets and getting them to be even across the board. 1, 2, 3, 2. So we're taking this idea that we've been playing before of filling up a beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So we have that sound. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to, instead of dividing those beats by a even amount, I'm going to divide that by 3. So it'll be an odd amount as we go. Here's the difference. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. These are eighth note triplets. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3. Here's regular 1 and 2 and 3. How straight that is. 1 and 2 and 3. Triplets. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that makes sense to a lot of people. Okay, it's just 3 notes per beat. And you get that feeling of moving side to side, back and forth. I always think of those concerts where people used to hold lighters up. Now they hold their cell phone flashlights up, right? But you'll see them moving back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2. Has that sound of a waltz. It kind of goes sways, where straight beats go back forward, right? I think of like a heavy metal concert with like a mosh pit, right? Everybody's aggressive and going forward. But the 3 feel is different. A lot of people think that it's an easy thing to play until they have to play it. This is something that you need to practice to get the sound of triplets in your head. There are lots of different triplets. We're just talking about eighth note triplets. These are things that most people understand but can't play. I guess is the most blunt way to put it. I understand that. I understand playing 3 notes in between each beat. But then when you have to play it, or say that you have to play, let's say you have to play just the second one of a triplet. So if it's 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. That's an odd sound, right? That's not easy to do. It's very difficult to pick those out. So you're not just going to get this because you understand it. This is something that you need to put under your fingers. You need to practice this intentionally. Put the metronome on. Try to play triplets. Try to leave a note out like I just did and challenge yourself. The last tip I'm going to share with you today to make your guitar playing rhythmically solid in 2024 is counting out loud, something you've been hearing me do through this entire podcast. Some people feel funny, especially saying 1E and a 2E, and I don't care. It is a language. If I said that to a drummer, they would know what I was talking about. I can relate to other musicians when I vocalize my rhythms that way. But also when you count out, it makes it solid in your brain. You're doing something other than just playing. You're marrying that to your vocals. Have you ever had a song that you can sing easily? It just, you might try to sing some songs and it's difficult to play the guitar and sing at the same time. But other ones, they just work really well. That's because those rhythms sync well with your voice and your guitar playing. We're marrying the two, and it makes very strong pathways in the brain to get those rhythms in many different ways, not just on your guitar. So connecting verbal counting with physical playing is a very important thing. It builds a stronger sense of rhythm. And don't be afraid to use the numbers. It's very simple. The whole language is beats. 1, 2, 3, 4 between the beats. If it's just eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and for 16th notes, it's 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. That's going to cover you for most of what you need. and triplets, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. If you use that language, everyone's going to know what you're talking about. You're talking about rhythms, and they're going to know where to place those rhythms if you're trying to get some information across to someone else. If you've wondered my opinions on the metronome by now, you haven't listened very often. Leverage this thing, this guy, right? It's awesome. It's helps incredibly. It helps you. It's not going to ruin your feel. It's going to make your feel stronger. It's going to make your feel accurate. You'll be able to use different feels when you want them. You won't just sound like you have the same feel in everything you play. And you know I'm talking to you. As much as I say that, I don't use the metronome as a crutch. I don't have to have a metronome to play. I use the metronome as a tool to build my internal clock. So if you're a practicer, if you're like, okay, I've got to work on my rhythms, I'm going to play along to the metronome, it's going to get you used to playing in time. But what happens when you don't have the metronome there? You're in a room full of people and you're just playing, right? We need to become independent of it of some sort. There are a lot of venues, especially churches, where people are playing to a click all the time. The whole band is synced to a click. That's not my favorite way to play. It doesn't feel great to me when I play that. I would rather use my internal metronome and then share it between two people, their idea of rhythm, and going back and forth. So I've used the metronome to get a solid feel on my own. But then when I perform, I really like it not to be there, because I can take what I've learned from it and make some music with that. Always start with eights. Beginning the count out loud practice with your eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And it's the easiest way to get in between those beats just halfway through. It feels natural there. So start with that. If you haven't counted yet, play some eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then later on, you can transition to more complex rhythms over time. If you do this as a habit too, when you're practicing, say you're doing the scales. One thing that I used to do is I would say, this is before I really knew my fretboard. Say I was playing like a D major scale, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. I would say the names of the notes as I play, and then 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, right? D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and make that a practice when you go through your scales. Make that something that you do every time. It's a habit. And it's something that's going to really make you focus in on these rhythms that most people have ignored for decades. And now they're realizing, oh my gosh, this is something in my playing that I need to bring up a little bit. Accenting on different rhythms, using mixed rhythms, counting with your voice as you play. These three things are going to help you make your rhythms solid. And listen to these things, integrate these techniques into your practice routine. Then when you play out, you'll have them mentally in there, and you'll be showing off like everybody else is, right? Okay, so this is something that we're working on in the Boost Camp 2024. We've been getting together every day. Today, we're not getting together because I have the storm coming through. In probably about 15 minutes. So I'm going to shut everything off. But Boost Camp is still going on. We're halfway through. I've got all the replays up to this point. You can join for $1. You become an Academy member with a 14-day trial. And then after the 14 days, you can decide to cancel, or you can keep going on and we can keep having fun. So we're going to be doing stuff like this. We're going to get together every month and then every Wednesday as well too. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on over there. I hope you take advantage of that. Link is in the description, and I am going to call it. That's a wrap. Thanks for joining me today for the Play Guitar Podcast. Make sure to hit the button below to subscribe to the show. And if you have benefited from this show, please leave a review. It helps. It helps a whole lot. That is the best way we can get this very valuable content to more guitar players around the world. And if more help, structure, and results in your guitar playing sounds good, head on over to Boost Camp 2024. We are there and waiting for you. I'm going to call it. See you next time. Bye-bye.